computer. Okay, we're recording.
Great. So I would like to share my daily practice and my own way of getting into so-called trance states, and then my experience and at my hi and then my experience at in my semi-channeling, as I would call it, because I don't know what it is yet. So my daily practice is quite simple. I fall into a routine of doing mantras. So I usually just do Om for 108 times. I really feel the vibration in me. It's so insane. I actually feel that there's something here that I would like to break through with my mantra. Every time I chant, I feel like there's something restricting me right here. I don't know what it is yet, and it might not be something restricting me, but I have a feel with that. So I do mantra in the morning. I do stretch in the morning, and just to keep my body flexible. And I do yoga practice in the afternoon, or I go to a yoga class. I make an effort to meditate I try to meditate at least 30 minutes a day. It could be a multiple session of 5 minutes, or it could be a one long session of 1 hour. It doesn't. It just depends on how I am that day. So that's basically my daily practice. I do the alternate natural breathing. When I started with yoga, I never thought that was anything, to be honest. And now with the awakening and me, oh my God, it's one of the best pranayama practice there is. And that's my general practices. So how I get into a trance state is that I would be in my meditation. I usually focus on my spine, my back channel first. So I would think to myself that I'm connecting with the universal consciousness through my back channel first. And then once that's established, which is about a minute or two, sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes very quick. And I will get a feeling that I am connected. I don't know how to explain that. It's just like, I don't know how to explain that. And then once that's done, I go through my chakras in the front channel one by one. So going from the first one to the seventh one. And then it's also kind of like connecting as well. And just to activate all my chakras. And after that, which takes about, again, a minute to 5 minutes, depending on how I was that day. And then once that's all done, I basically just focus on my upper chakras, the heart, throat, third eye, and top. And I just leave the bottom ones, it would just do its thing. It would just do its thing. So I don't really focus too much on the lower ones. And then that's my meditation. And then the focus is more on the midline. So once the back and the front are connected, the focus is more central. So there isn't a distinction for front and back, but just more of a central connection. Sometimes, and this is when I go into channeling, or I think what channeling is, sometimes that would actually expand. So I literally feel that there's a column inside me, a consciousness column, and it would just expand bigger and bigger, and then it would actually just become a whole column that basically circles me and connects to whatever there is. Once that happens, there's one time that I just started hearing. It's not really hearing voice, but it's more like hearing thoughts. And then at first, I don't really know what it is, so I just let it be. I just keep hearing, listening, observing. And one day, that voice, and then I actually had a visual in my mind's eye as well. I see like a blob, a circle, a sphere of consciousness or something, or light. I don't know how to explain. It's like liquid and kind of posing, and then the thought that I'm hearing is actually posing in rhythm with that blob that I see, and the thought that I hear actually sounded more like computer digital. It sounded like a mask voice. It sounded like, oh, I can't do impressions, so I'm not going to try. It sounded like a
I know
mask
what you
voice.
mean.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
kind of like one of those ransom kidnapper on a voice alternating device, kind of like that. And as I mentioned in my message to you, I also can recognize my own voice in that voice. So the thought that I'm hearing actually has different layers of voice. And one of the layers is my own. And I just intuitively know that's actually my subconscious. So from that, I speculate that I am channeling through something, but then there's a layer of filter that's my subconscious. So that's basically my process. And I think because of that layer of my subconscious, some of the messages are distorted because of my own bias, because of my own preference. I can see that. Because I would know the thought that's talking to me is saying something that I want to hear, and it's saying that because I want to hear it, and that's the layer that I want to remove or somehow clean up as much as I can. So that's basically my process. Your thoughts, please. Thank you.
Okay. That's a big chunk, Andy.
Yes, I'm sorry. I like to give a lot of information so that you completely understand where I'm coming from. That's all. Take your time, please. Thank you.
Okay, so when you go inside yourself, and this is the same when you go inside yourself and quote out of body,
Mhm.
a very common place to land is in your own thoughts. So the way you think of a dream is the way the field is going to behave. And because you're having a thought, that voice that you're hearing uh, is a level of your personal subconscious, then that's the mirror you're getting. That's the kind of stuff that you're hearing. So you can either address that thought and dismantle the thought, and you can do that with your curiosity. So the idea is to not answer a question yourself,
Mhm. Mhm.
only ask them. So
Okay.
it's a lot like when you're on the phone and you call someone and or you're being called and you answer the phone and you say hello and then you listen.
Okay. I get that.
So it's
Okay.
a lot like that. You just open your listening. You don't answer your own questions. Otherwise, you're going to get your own personal data back at yourself. But if you can ask a question openly and then listen, like don't answer it, just sit there in that opening, then you'll get something larger.
Okay.
Because just because you can identify your own voice and the voice that's coming back at you is not necessarily telling you that
Mhm.
that's you or your personal subconscious. It just means this is associated with you. You are
Okay.
connected with this. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so you can move from that and something larger will happen.
Okay. So just to paraphrase, just to summarize what I understand from what you just say. Um, so patience, just a lot of listening, basically. And when if the because I can already identify what a real answer is and what a bias a personal answer with a personal bias answer is. So I just keep waiting basically and just really observe the distinction of the what I hear and then refine that.
Yes, and the answer that you're getting when you're hearing something, know that this is, at least for a spectrum of time, relative to your own thinking.
Okay. Yes,
So,
I actually understand that.
so
Because,
it's
yeah,
like a mirror.
yeah.
Yes. And so if you can take your thinking and just hold it still
Mm-hmm.
and open up your listening, something larger can take place. Because
Okay.
at first we're only seeing a fraction of what's happening. We're just getting a little bite of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if you understand that this isn't what it is, this is just a fraction of what it is, you can put that to rest.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah. So open your awareness, open your observation, open your curiosity to the point where you never have an end point, an answer, a definite answer that, it's this and it's not anything but this. Because as soon as you do that, you put yourself in a box and you limit what's going to come through, just like you had said. And that's what we don't want, right, when we're channeling.
Wow. That is very profound, to be honest.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what you're saying is that not to be, in a very cliche way, is that not to be limited by my goal. Basically, not to set a destination because curiosity is endless itself. Having a goal or thinking of a milestone to achieve actually limits the curiosity and where I am able to go, basically. So just be open. Be happy of whatever comes, and then not to send an end goal, and be curious to the infinity, basically, I guess.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll move from the need to define, because as soon as it's definite, it's limited. And so you open to possibility instead, infinite possibility.
Okay.
Perception is endless. There's an endless number of ways in which you can perceive this thing and from which angle, and so you hit one way to perceive it. It's just one way, you know,
Right.
in an infinite number of ways to
Mhm.
perceive it. Yes.
Um,
And then when you hit an experience that you're really enjoying, and here every hair on my body begins to stand up, as soon as you
mhm.
hit one experience that you seem to really be enjoying, enjoy it. Hang out there, linger, use that perception for a while, until you've, gotten everything that you can from it and you're curious again, what more? What now?
Perfect. I think you answered my question. I'm gonna get a pen and paper just to write that down, and then meditate on that. You guys talk.
Okay. Hi, Anton. How are you today?
Hi, Anton. Sorry.
Your microphone.
Looking for my mute button here. I'm okay. I've got nothing really new. I was kind of curious about a couple things you said, though, Andy.
Yes.
You said you have no trouble telling your mental messages from channeled messages. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. So let me explain quickly what I meant by that. I don't really know if I'm actually channeling yet. I don't know. I think I am. I don't know. And if I am channeling, I think I'm only channeling my higher self because that was my intention when I do the meditation. And what I meant is that I can, because of meditation, because I am so used to hearing my thoughts, my own thoughts in meditation, and just let it be, I'm actually able to identify when I am connected to, when I'm in a trance state, when thoughts started to come out. I will see a thought that's very constant. Basically, how I would describe it is that I would see a vibration that's very constant. I actually see a ball of something. It's like a sound wave visualization that we play on the computer. When you play a music, a song, and then there's a visualization, and then the visualization will go with the rhythm of the song, right? That's basically what I see in my mind's eye. So when there is a constant thought or a constant vibration that's coming through, the visual that I see would actually remain constant, and it would look like someone was talking. Like you see a wave, and then it would actually go like that, and then it actually goes to with the rhythm of the thoughts. So as though I'm seeing the sound vibration. And then within that, there are many, many layers. And one of the layers that I can see or I can hear, I know, is my own thought. Because I'm so used to see it in meditation. That, oh, I know. It's like when it comes out, it's like, oh, that's just noise from my thought. And then I would actually play with it too. And I would ask it questions and then try to imagine it answering back. And it would answer back. But then just like Casey said, I'm basically responding. My subconscious is responding to my consciousness, I guess. And the answer is actually very biased. So I would actually intentionally ask a question that I know what my biased answer would be and wait for it. And the answer that came back would be a very biased answer that's just saying something that I want to hear. Because I already know the answer. I asked that question on purposely just to test it out, see if it will come back with a very neutral answer or a very biased answer. And that layer that I identify as my own subconscious will always answer in the way that I want to hear it. So that's how I experiment with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you play with it like this. That's how it just got made. Yeah, it's definitely the process of moving into a channeling state and beginning to channel. When you say these words out loud, you're channeling them. And what you're channeling is going to depend a lot on what you would like to channel and how much you can get out of the way.
And I guess it depends on your definition of channeling too, whether you want to include communication with guides or your higher self as part of channeling or just other communication.
Of course, no, that's
semantics, I guess, at that point.
Your guides are beings, they're entities. We could say people very loosely in the same way that we are. And my guide Naru is not Casey. Yes, it's a component part of my total being, but it's not Casey. So I'm channeling another life form, another lifeline. Yeah, I can also channel myself. Yes, like I can also channel Casey. I can move into a channeling state and channel my own person. And it will be slightly different than when I'm not in the channeling state and I'm just talking. Yeah.
I actually know what you mean by that. It's so insane because it's basically, you are basically completely adopted to the reality that there are multiple you exist in the same time in different dimensions. And the physical body that we have is just a vessel. And that was it. I am at the stage where I still cannot completely see past through that. I understand it. I know it. But my body hasn't caught up to it yet. This thing is still very not with it yet, even though this understood, but this doesn't. So yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the process. We take in information, we grow to a point of understanding it or not, and if we grow to a point of understanding, then we begin to let it into our experience. So when understanding or awareness and your experience are in alignment, that's the completion of that particular piece of information. Yeah, when you're actually experiencing it. So yes, sometimes we can understand things like physicality is not fundamental, but we're not necessarily experiencing that idea yet. So letting it down into the body in various ways and working it into the life and lifetime and your life activity is how we do that. Let me see. How do we try on an idea like that? Here's a good question for you. So we come into a new idea, and how do we try it on? How do we let it into our experience?
I usually just sit with it when I have an idea that comes to me, or a state of mind that I had experienced only for a very short period, only for a short moment. I don't know. I just sit with it. I just try to cultivate it. Not really trying to imagine it or visualize it, but just in a way, just trying to remember. I guess the word is remembering. But it's not actually not that active. It's just keeping an intention. Is like I would like to feel. I would like to invite that experience again. Basically, would be the intention when I meditate, with whatever idea I'm trying to cultivate, or whatever experience I would like to replicate. That's how I usually do it.
Well, definitely opening to the awareness or the idea you're holding into your experience is the way to begin letting it in, but holding the awareness of that idea while you're engaged, while you're there doing the dishes. So let's give an idea in particular. Physicality is not fundamental.
Right.
Okay, here's the idea. Okay, so the body is not really a meat body, it's a body of consciousness. Yeah, consciousness is what's composing the body. So here's the idea. And then you hold that idea while you're, like I say, doing the dishes. So you can feel your hands on the dishes, and you'll begin to have a very new experience standing there washing the dishes. That is not the typical mundane experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how we begin, letting it in. Letting it in. Not just into the awareness, not just sitting there in meditation, but while we're going about our daily activities, while we're interacting with other people. That's when everything really begins to change. That truly is a shift from 3D, out into a wider dimension of experience.
May I ask though, when you do that, like you say, when you're interacting with someone else, would you mind describing your own perception with that? Let's say the question that you just posed, that this physical body is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, like, what kind of experience do you
I personally begin to experience everything as a singularity. I begin to experience what is connecting one thing and another thing. Reality itself sort of starts turning inside out. So I'm not experiencing physical objects with space separating them. I'm experiencing, we could say, the space inside which are all these objects. So perception turns inside out.
Oh, Anton, I'm so sorry I'm talking a lot. I have a lot of questions.
Yes, you know, I've talked a lot, so no problem there.
Interrupt me if I'm getting too annoying. I do have another question. I just lost it.
Let's ask Anton something real quick, just to bring him into this idea. How do you experience the difference of your own mental thinking and an idea outside your own person coming in?
Well, I'm asking because I'm struggling with it a little bit. You know, there's times where I think I've had an idea, but then I'm thinking, well, was that just me? Or I thought I got a message and I follow it and it doesn't turn out right. And well, that was a bum lead, that was just my brain probably.
But
I'm still a little bit with sometimes distinguishing the two myself. Kind of where I was going that way. I'm usually a good sense of it. And the other thing, I had a couple other questions for Andy. Well, a comment too for Andy. One, don't worry about writing things down because she does replay these on YouTube pretty much. And I've been even watching myself and her talking, and I've missed things she said just because my mind was thinking about my reply more than listening, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's really valuable that she does replay them. So don't worry, be here now and don't even worry about writing it down because it'll be there. But the other question I had for you though was about, it seems like you had a clairaudient type experience where you heard voices, where you hear from the inner channel a voice, a vocal. Do you ever get that? Because I've heard my name a few times. Why
I haven't. I actually haven't. The one thing I keep asking when I'm in a trance state is that, who is it? Can you tell me your name? Would you mind sharing your name? Will you please share your identity? But then I haven't gotten anything yet, and that's the reason why I tend to think that's my higher self, because my higher self should not need any name, I guess. And that's why I didn't get any name. I think I have been into the semi-channeling state about 4 to 5 times now, and each time it lasts pretty long. Even and then as I have watched all those channeling videos and recordings, they tend to be long, and then the question that you get to ask is not that many. You get to ask like 5 in an hour, I guess. Then you'll be very lucky, right?
And that's with all the spaces cut out.
yes, yeah. That's a lot of the
long pauses, really.
Yeah, long pauses. You're just waiting, right? Yeah. No, I get that. So it usually does answer some of my more pressing questions. I actually have Anton, the question that you have. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you think that you were saying that sometimes you feel that you got something right, and then later on you feel that, oh, it doesn't seem to sit right with me, and then you have to file this somewhere else and recategorize it. I actually asked that question to my higher self, and then the answer that I have gotten is that be very cautious. Well, not cautious. That's not a good word. Just be as mindful as you can with all observations, but don't ever have doubts. Don't doubt what you have been given, but really watch and observe what you have given. What you have given, what we have been given at that time is what we can process. And but then the key is to look at it long enough, somehow it will trigger a connection with something else, and that will lead you to something else. And you might have to leave this one thing that you have gotten now to move forward. And sometimes you have to take it with you, and you don't know. So just go with your intuition, but don't have any doubts. Doubt and fear are the two things that would delay you, always. And not to have doubt doesn't mean that you don't be careful and mindful of what you have been receiving, but just that you don't, okay, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound really weird. You don't let the power itself hypnotize you. Whatever you have been given is not a power. It's just something to lead you further. I guess that's the best I can describe it. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope it does.
So,
it's an experience. And so, yes, carry the experience regardless of what you're thinking of the experience with you, because that's what you're going to have to put in relation to any new experience that comes. Then you put those two into relation. Oh, this was different than it was here. And in that relationship is where you begin to grow your understanding. Yeah, what this was and what this is and why the experiences came to play.
Yeah, the one example I just have in my mind is that, remember how we have been taught in school? We always been taught with some very basic tools first, and then we use that to get onto something that's way harder. But then we might not use the basic tool anymore. But we have to be taught of the basic tool first, and then have that connection so that we can go on to the more advanced craft. Whether or not we take the basic tool with us is depend on every different people, right? Some people can rely on the fundamentals forever, and they do great, and they are able to achieve what other people can achieve by using the fundamentals. But some people will move on to different kind of craft and then achieve the same kind of result. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Different tools for different fools.
Yes, basically.
And so let's just briefly say here before we move on that the channeling state, because we're talking about channeling, is the out-of-body state.
Yeah. Yes.
Your next question was?
I think that's enough for me to work with for a little while. My next question is actually more about you. I actually want to find out your experience and your process or your ritual to do channeling. I kind of, yeah. So, and then if you have any comments on my process and my daily practice, anything that you think might add to it, that would be great.
What might add to it is a precise meditation, a yoga nidra.
I do yoga nidra.
And a 61 point, the full yoga nidra.
The 2-hour one.
Yes, you're going to hit all the points through the body.
Right.
So you're going to open all the channels. You're doing something very similar to what I am. The chakras, by the way, are the back body. The kshatriyas, when you're opening the front body, is different. So you're opening the back body and then you're opening the front body. And this is something very similar to what I do. When I connect with spirit, I'm opening the back body.
Mm-hmm.
You can just literally feel the entire back side of yourself and just relax it to the point where, there is no closure there and you can feel the penetration of spirit into the body. And that literally turns my perception inside out. So I can go directly into the out-of-body state or channeling state simply by opening my back body. And my back body has always been so open. The back body is what connects to spirit. The front body is what connects with the world. And so, just open the back body, let spirit connect. And then I open the vocal channel and just begin speaking. I'm speaking mostly right now as I'm new at the, actualizing the channeling. Just verbalizing the process of me going into the state, just relaying what's happening as I go in. And so this was what the Monroe explorers did, which is why I'm all over this process right now and seeing if we can reactualize this work and continue on it where they left off. And see what happens as a result, because this is what led to many of them connecting with their inner guidance and opening the vocal channel and channeling entities. Yeah. So basically mine is an opening of the back body. I also have to work a great deal on the body itself. And so like yourself, I do yoga almost all day. At various points, I just drop to the floor. There's inversions that help me a lot. Shoulder stand, headstand, and plow in particular really open the spine, crown to base. And without those, I wouldn't be able to sit. So I need to find a comfortable sitting position for my channeling, and I haven't quite arrived there yet. But that's very big. Mantra, the voice, like yourself, again, to open the throat chakra, to open the vocal center, vibration. So working with Om or just in the Brahmari breath, you're doing Nadi Shodhana, which is a cleansing breath. And so there must be a reason for that. Just maybe opening the channels. Edith Pingali. Just getting to the central channel. Nadi Shodhana could probably definitely do that, but I prefer and choose for myself Kapalabhati and Vastrika. And so we're doing something very similar. I don't work specifically with the chakras centers the way you do. So we might ask you exactly how you go about doing that, how you go into the centers and vivify them. I don't move through that process myself because my process is a top-down process. So I open the back body, I let in the energies, and the energy comes in and does what it needs to. And then I simply relay what the energy is doing, what the movement is, what vibration I'm feeling. And the one time I got the channeling flow. It's only happened the one time so far. We've only got
What? Sorry.
I said I only got the channel one time. So I connected with an entity.
Oh, is that the seventh video that you just the seventh practice you released a few days ago? I watched that.
Yeah,
So that was the first time that you channeled?
Istan started coming through the day prior, and yeah, I got that name Istan, and then the yell just sort of like I recognized the energy. You know, it's almost unmissable when you watch other people channel the yell and, you know, connect with that energy. As soon as it started coming through me, I was like, oh yeah, this is yell. But that's only happened, yeah, one time for me so far.
Anton, again, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. I have another question. I tried to watch the Robert Monroe or listen to the links just this morning, actually. I wasn't able to get to it. Do I need to register to the website? I didn't look into any of that yet.
Well, if you go to the thread that I linked to, you can just scroll down the page, and I've embedded a lot of.
It wouldn't play. It wouldn't play. I think I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm very curious about it, and I think my method and your method are so similar. I don't actually do too much with my chakras either. I know quite a bit about it because of my my yoga practice, and then I went through the 200-hour yoga training, so it's kind of like a forced reading that we have to do. So I know I know a little bit more than an average person about them, but I don't really work with them too much. I actually have one really interesting question. It might have something to do with what we are doing, or it might have nothing to do with it. So I get this weird experience when I'm talking to certain people. My vision would actually blur. So right now, I'm talking to both of you, especially Casey. The first time I talked to you, the grid that you're talking about, the tiny little energy dots that you see in the air, floating in the air, when I talk to you, it becomes super thick. It's very dense. I get that when I am in a certain yoga class. I get that when I'm talking to a certain people. I might not know that they are spiritual. Actually, they would just have that. They would just happen. Mm-hmm. Has that ever happened to you? I'm just so curious if that signifies anything.
Yeah, well, I get the visuals a lot. So my vision center was the first to come fully online. And I will say in my awareness, it was always online. It just wasn't always fully so in my awareness. Mm-hmm. But it was the first one to come in. So my visual field is not like the standard visual field. And a lot of I will say light and vibration and movement present there just all the time. Yeah, well, anytime I want to focus into it.
Sounds so much fun, to be honest.
It is.
Yeah, I get a little bit of that, but and I'm right now I'm practicing. I don't do too much mirror gazing. I don't know why. I really should. I try to do 15 minutes every day. But then since 2 days ago, I started to do a little bit more moon gazing. It's quite fascinating. Moon gazing, I would recommend to all of you if you haven't done it yet.
So this is a practice called Tritak.
Yes.
And Tritak was my main practice, and that is how I will just say my vision center did come fully online in my awareness. This was the practice. And I prefer Chautauqua on a light source. I am a light source. You are a light source. And I just didn't start there the way that most people would. I started with the sun and the moon and any reflection, the sunlight, the moonlight on water, the sun reflecting off of a metal lamppost, street lamps, headlights on cars. When I was younger, I would just be stopped. Anytime I saw the light, literally, it would just stop me in my tracks. Yeah, I would go out of body. And yeah, the whole visual field would, dismantle. And, some minutes later, I would come back and just sort of be standing there.
I had the same experience. I thought it was just me.
Yeah, no, that's a very similar and light will have, we are light, and so reconnecting with the light. I had to learn how to see people as light. And so.
How do you do that? I think that's actually where I am oriented towards now.
Yeah, well, I have a bias. Light is light, and I'm very drawn toward light and the sun. But people are people, and
yeah. So how do you see them as light?
That was my own bias, and that's something that I've had to work with in my life experience. And so, the culmination that's happening now has been a 20-year process of me connecting with people and not just directly with light. Yeah, light itself, we could say. But light as this and light as that. So yeah, and doing the true talk on my own self into my own eyes, this is a culmination for me also. I would rather do true talk on you or Anton or another person, than myself in the mirror. I don't use mirrors. I don't like mirrors.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I honestly, I try to do mirror gazing. I just don't like it. I don't know why. And it's not like I have any, I don't know, like any aversive reaction with it. I just don't like it. I have a suggestion if you have time for it. And if you like, can we do like a gazing into each other?
Sure.
I'm actually quite flexible. I work from home most of the time. I'm a freelance accountant, so I'm quite flexible with my schedule. So please let me know if you like to. We can just set up a 15 minutes. I know it sounds weird gazing into each other's eyes, but
no, it's not weird at all, and it is a yoga practice, and this is part of True Talk.
Yeah, it is. I would really like that. So please let me know. And then
it's scared easily. It's not it's an advanced practice. Because when the vision center does begin to open, you will be able to see my other representations that are very not earth human.
Oh, I would want to see that. I actually started to see something from your crystal image. Some of the crystal image
work with those first. Let me suggest to work with those first.
But I can't see. I have crystals of my own, but I can't see much in my own crystals. I don't know why. I am a very impatient person, as you can see. I like to be able to do all these things right now. It's so hard to be patient. Yeah.
Me too. But True Talk on any of those frames will help you immensely to do a True Talk with myself. You will begin to see some of what's there, and your biological system will be moved into somewhat of a state of preparation. Because you would not want to receive a shock.
I kind of want to be honest. I'm sorry to say this. I'm ready for the shock, to be honest. I want to share something I meant to share with you. I actually read something. So for a couple years, my left head, my left side of my head actually keep feeling like there's something opening up, and I would get like a really bad headache. But for some reason, I have quite a high pain tolerance personally, physically. So I never take any too much Western medicine. So I just let it be. And then this year, after my Kundalini awakening, I was reading something, again, going into the information junkie phase. And I read a paper someone wrote called Light Body Experience. And it's so fascinating. It talk about the whole, it's not talking about Kundalini awakening, but it's talking about spiritual awakening from a physical perspective. And then they actually indicated that this doctor has experience with many other doctors who has the same light body experience, that there's a channel on the left side of your brain that's for downloading. And to really open it up, it's actually just be patient and then meditate and breathe through it, like move energy in and out there, and eventually it will clear up. Yeah, my left brain is completely cleared up now.
And I was just going to say water. Anytime that you have pain in the body, 90% of the time, water will remedy this.
Yeah, I drink like 4 liters of water every single day. And then to a point, I think that I'm drinking too much water because I've never drank this much water, but my body actually wants it. I'm thirsty all the time. It's quite fascinating. And the opening is actually moving to my right side of my brain. And I think it actually just cleared it up. I don't know what this right side is for, to be honest. I think it's sending, because if one is coming in, the other one has to be going out, I think. And
possibility.
Yeah.
One way of perceiving it.
Yeah.
If you enjoy that perception,
I'm waiting to see, because I can move energy in and out both sides. So the right side has completed clearing up, which I am very happy, because when it's clearing up, I was actually experiencing headache, and now it actually just subsided, which is great. I'm going to stop talking now because I did realize that I talk a lot. Please, I would like to listen now.
This again is the central nervous system. And during my first 4 awakening years, and I'm a person who doesn't talk, but now if you get me going, I can't stop.
Yeah, me too.
That's a part of this. A lot of this needs an avenue of expression, and once we give it the avenue of expression, it calms down, and so don't worry, all of that will happen. Your awakening process literally began this year, right? Was it in February?
Yeah, end of February, so March. Yeah. But I think the population was 10 years before that. And I kind of realized now, looking back, it's like, oh, okay, so I guess it has been happening for 10 years. It's just,
there's things, but the activation for it to fully take place, where it's not going to exit your awareness now, that's an activation to awaken.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful.
Now, when I got here, I put a list in the chat. Do you guys know how to look at the chat?
No, I don't.
Just hover your cursor over the bottom of the screen, and you'll see the links there for chat and to pause and polling and invite and all of that kind of stuff. Stop video, mute. There's a chat down there. And I put some ideas for things to discuss today over there. So if you want to look at them and tell me if anything there sounds interesting, we can go into some of those.
Sorry, because I'm using my phone, so I can't seem to see it. Why don't you would you mind reading them out loud for us, if that's okay?
I could, sure. Yeah. The first is sleep habits. Next, I thought it might be fun to just talk about the advanced student and the practice habits of the advanced student, because a lot of people talk about wanting to advance in their
please.
So there's one: brainwave frequencies and tools, staying conscious through the shift out of body, the inner sound, and using the inner sound to shift the vibrational state in fear. what you can experience in a conscious shift, practice, and the 90-minute magic point. There is this 90-minute magic point where if you can maintain your practice, where
For 90 minutes.
savasana, meditation, breathing practice, any pratyaksha, if you can hit that 90-minute mark, boom, something magical happens.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. My practice has not
Consciousness experiments, focus levels, and landmarks. I mean, so there it was a big list.
You just mentioned something I'm actually quite curious about. What's the one thing that you mentioned after brainwave?
Staying conscious through the shift out of body, the inner sound, and using the inner sound.
The inner sound. So I do hear a ringing after my awakening. I use it for my meditation. So would you mind explaining what you mean by your inner sound?
So if you get very quiet, like right now, even plug your ears. Anton, plug your ears and get quiet and listen. Do you hear anything? That's the inner sound.
Yeah.
However, you may be hearing an abbreviated version of it if it's not pleasant and quite loud.
Mine is present. I can basically hear it all the time, even without plugging my ear.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So that's the inner sound. And if you can just take your awareness, go right inside of it. In the same way that you would, maybe close your eyes and go inside yourself, go inside of it. Go into experiencing yourself as fast sound vibration, and you will shift.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll try that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great way to shift. Very pleasant.
Because I can see vibration now in my visual. So I think I should be able to immerse myself in that vibration.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, always try to spread everything out, and we'll say full body. So even if you're hearing a sound and it's like up here in your ears, let go of your ears. Just relax that space and see if you can get the sound vibration to spread through your whole body. So you can do this with any sound, even an exterior sound. When I'm meditating and there's sounds going on, there's loud birds squawking or an airplane flying overhead or the lawn guys with their leaf blowers, I will just, I'm not going to let that get in my way. I'm going to use that sound and I'm going to try to get that sound to be experienced through the whole of my body, and I'm just going to shift now. I'm going to go. So using sound and using vibration as a way to shift is just immaculate. Yeah, it's almost easier than like.
I just tried with the construction noise outside with the jackhammering. I
have that here too.
I have like 3 construction outside of my house right now. That is fascinating. Thank you. Wow, this is great. I have so much to play with now.
Yeah, you can use anything. Yeah,
How
use
did
the
you,
field.
how did you get
Everybody wants to get away from this field when they want to get out of body, not realizing that you can use everything in this field to shift.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
you can use the entirety of the field itself to shift. I mean, just relax your vision, relax your gaze until you begin to see the particles that are composing all the things, you know. And then when you see the movement, you're going to let that permeate your entire structure, you know, to where you're not feeling yourself as a solid object. You know, that movement begins to permeate you. All your body system cells begin to move, vibrate. And yeah, that will have a sound. And so you can get into the sound too, or you can get into the feeling. So you can use feeling, you know, tactile sensation to shift, you know, or sound vibration, which again is going to be, you know, feeling, or, you know, the visual center and light.
So when you say that, there's just one point I would just want to focus on. When you say that way, you see the molecule or what the particle that's flying around the air, you can actually, you would use that too. You would. I really like what you just say about that, because what you just say was my interpretation of it is that you see the movement of a particle once you relax your eyes, and then you somehow that movement of the particle uh, vibrates with your body complex. So
Yes, I'm
your
in the field.
body complex particle would just be unbound basically and moving with the, oh my good God, that is
Mm,
so fascinating.
yeah. So
I
that's
think you
how
could do
you'll
a course on
experience the
that, to
vibrational
be
state
honest.
while you're here in this field, but you can also ride that vibrational state into what I call additional fields.
Mm-hmm.
I am here and there. It's additional consciousness states, it's additional body states, and not for me so much out of body states, because I'm in here in this field and out there in that field also. So it's always additional in my experience. And this happens a lot with the top down awakenings. And because
I
you're,
wonder what that is like. It's so fascinating. Mine is a bottom up, so the top down, it just fascinates me. I wonder how that is like.
yeah, you like get the whole thing first, and you can move in toward more specifics. So where you're moving into very specific environments and experiences, mine can sometimes be very broad and very general. But if I narrow my awareness, I can find points of specific, detailed experience taking place in that. But that took me a long time to be able to do.
Okay.
Mm.
One silly question, as I'm a very impatient person, so I would like to know how long did it take you to get where you are right now since you were awakening? 20 years?
My activation to awaken occurred in 2009.
Okay, so 10 years, 10
Um,
years.
and it was, well, my awakening was extraordinary. It was immaculate. It could not have been any more perfect. And yeah, it was day and at night for 4 years straight. I wasn't putting it down.
Mm.
And then I was sort of made to put it down. I go through these 4 year cycles. I've talked about this before, where in the past, the two main component parts of my consciousness that are here living this life experience and rather in charge of it. One would step forward while the other was back. And during those 4 years, they would be very spiritual years, you know, and then the other would step forward while the other stepped back. And these would be very physical life oriented years. And it was, you know, not nonstop. And so after my awakening 4 years, the one stepped back and it became very physical life. And there was a lot that I had to complete with during those 4 years that I did manage to complete with. And so at that point, they don't step forward and back anymore. They're completely merged, and it's an ongoing experience of spiritual and physical simultaneously now. And so I'm acclimating to that. And
Mm.
and that awareness only came through to me this last year. Yeah, so that is very new. Acclimating to it, enjoying it, making discovery after discovery after discovery, meeting many more of you and coming together in creative projects. And so yeah, now it's about to get real fun. Yeah,
Oh, I'm
for a
very
while,
grateful.
because I won't be here for a long time. And
Oh, me
yes,
either.
I do know my departure date.
Oh, can I talk about that? Is that
Departure-
too much to talk about the departure date?
No, not at all. Fascinating. I've always been aware of my potential departure dates, and I've exceeded many of them. I decided to stay in service here.
Why did you decide to stay?
Mostly because there was a lot that was not in my experience packet yet that had a high probability of coming into an actualization. And so I opted to go for it.
To stay. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, Anton, if you don't mind me talking about this is a little bit more not completely related to OBE. So in one of my channelings, one of the biggest question I have is that I would like to know my exit date. I personally had enough with this. I had not anymore. I personally had enough with this world. So I was desperately just trying to know, can I just have an end date? I was given an answer. Yeah, and well, obviously, I cannot talk about it because once I talked about it, anyways, if I shared it, it won't happen. But it's just fascinating that you choose to stay. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure what I would do when it comes yet. So sorry, that's just more of personal sharing. It has been bothering me a little bit because, well, look at the world. It just gets more intense every single day when I wake up. And I understand why. I understand all of this is just to induce an awakening to people. I get it. It's just, it's not easy to watch the suffering. That's all. Yeah, so it fascinates me that you were telling me that you also know your expiration date, but then you choose to stay and exceeded a few. Because I also got that in one of my one of the channeling is that I would have the choice to stay or leave. It's actually up to me. Yeah.
I have a characteristic quality that is not very accepting of not doing my absolute best, of not doing absolutely everything that I can. And so if I haven't, then I am not very accepting of that and will push myself on.
Mm.
There's more I can do. There's more people I can help. There's more people I can connect with. There's many, as you know, who are stuck and have been stuck here, including ourselves. We came in and we got stuck. And it's interesting. And some of my first out of body experiences, I was taken into these very mundane scenarios. To give an example, one might be an empty, deserted sort of house, outdated. You could tell the features of it were 30 some odd years old. It was lightly dusty, and I'd be like, why am I here? I would be walking through these homes or these areas, and just this lingering feeling that to be trapped in an existence like this would just be miserable. And, I was beginning to see a part of why I was here, and I don't want to leave anyone in that. That's my motivating force.
Thank you. I definitely feel that. And I feel like I just keep repeating what you're saying, but I'm going to say this. I had the same experience. I had the most mundane dream in the world. I actually would dream about me getting a cup of coffee. I would have sleep talks that my friend would tell me that, why are you sleep talking ordering a coffee? Or why are you buying grocery when in your sleep? And like, I don't know why I'm buying grocery in my sleep. Yeah, and then recently I actually started to realize that that's probably me channeling something. Not that I know what it is, but just, yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's my past life that I'm channeling, or my future life, but it was very mundane and very stock, just like you say.
Yeah, it's not what it is, it's what it means to you.
Yeah.
So like you and your energy, they're in that environment. Now, when you're fully conscious, so in and out of body state, in and out of body experience, you begin to answer. So like, I knew in my asking, why am I here? It just sort of comes through how awful it would be to be stuck in such, a mundane existence, forever, just endlessly, because that's, the energy of the experience. Why am I here? And I just keep walking through, it's like I couldn't find my way through into another field. And that's not normal for my out of body experiences. It's not normal for me to be in a single field, period. I begin to feel trapped. I don't want to be in that. I want to be in that experience of the energy and the feeling state and that aliveness, and in enough fields that I feel like I'm getting enough information. If I'm it'd be like a university student being stuck in a kindergarten room. There's not enough there, that would be miserable for that person, And anyway, those are just what I begin feeling. And I'm like, oh, there's my answer, And, why did I have that experience? Well, look around and, that's the experience that most people are here in, because they got trapped in the third grade classroom. these brilliant beings trapped in a third grade classroom. Yeah, how miserable that is. And so, yes, did that give me the motivation to, awaken to the greatest degree possible? Yes. And what does awakening to the greatest degree possible mean? It means you are that by which a lot of others can be helped. And yeah, that feels good. That's purpose being fulfilled. And then that is your experience, not the wars over there and these people arguing over here, but that is your experience. And other people sort of fall a little bit into that and get affected by it. And can you feel it when you're in that feeling state, in the vibratory state? Yes. Every single person that you wake up, even the slightest, and here goes every hair on my body again, is felt and experienced by you. That is joy, and that's the fundamental of your experience. That's
Thank
the
you.
fundamental experience of my experience here now.
I think that's actually what I needed to hear for the whole section. It's actually not about anything else. Yeah. Anything else is just some toy I can play with, to be honest.
And the toys are fun. The toys give us
something
something
fun.
to do while
That keeps me entertained.
we do something while we're detained, right? Yeah, this life wasn't going to be about marriage for me.
Me either.
Buying property, saving money, passing it on to the next generation. None of that was here. I have none of those toys. We need something, you know, and these are our toys. And the toys are very helpful to those who are stuck here, because they're stuck in a mindset that says these things aren't possible. So as we begin actualizing these ideas, their boxes start to get less solid.
That's the word. Lot less solid, yes.
Yeah, because you can only see something happening for so long before you're like, well, maybe. I mean, you know, not that you're willing to give it much attention yet, but the tendency to say absolutely not is starting to get less solid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and it's interesting because the effect that I like having on people is that I am so neutral and so sort of not colorful in my expression. I'm somebody that could be anything. It's hard to paint me in any particular way. I'm not somebody who wears a lot of makeup or does my hair or has tattoos or, you know, dresses sort of differently. I'm not. So it's hard for people to say, she's just woo, because I don't look woo. I don't sound woo. I'm actually able to say these things in a language almost anybody can understand, and that was a part of my process too, learning the different languages. So if I need to pick up more scientific terms, I can do that. If I, you know, the terms that I need to use, I can, because at a certain point I got the secret decoder ring. I figured it out. You know, Yana was my path, and it was all my path. And as you may know, Yana is contrasted with Tantra. And when I culminated in my own practice, I realized I couldn't go any further until I put down Yana and picked up Tantra to find out what it was, you know, to where I wasn't using it as a dichotomy anymore. This is the opposite of this. You know, mine's a superior. So I had to eventually put mine down to figure out what Tantra was saying. And when I did that, I got the secret decoder ring. I could now translate any language. I understood, oh, wow, we're all saying the same thing. We're all actually saying the exact same thing. I could then show how Yana and Tantra were saying the same thing, you know. But most people don't get to the point where they can put their own down, their own perception bubble down, to pick up another to find out what it is actually saying. We usually only hear it in contrast to what we're saying. So we think this guy over here is saying something different. But we have to put down our own definitions, our own perception down, and then experience what this is saying. And you have to do it long enough to actually know. But at that point, you have the secret decoder ring. So, you know, you could look around and just, it's amazing.
So
I call it having a secret decoder ring, because people can use any words with me now, and I completely understand. You don't have to use my words. I can use yours.
So would you recommend, I know Yana, I think like you, well, you know, Tantra is the left hand practice, right? So would you recommend to read about, to actually, well, I guess you would recommend to study Tantra by what you just said, right?
Well, you have to find out who you are and what yours is. So,
okay.
You know, and then there's usually an opposite, somebody that so I was on the yoga boards, you know, and myself being the only yoni. Most of this world is tantric, as we know, meaning they engage outwardly with others. They generally don't engage inwardly. So, you know, my mating rituals were myself with spirit, not myself with other people. Tantra uses other people to get to the opening into spirit. And so You have to find out what you and yours is, and then, yeah, generally there's an opposite. My experience came to me on the boards, again, because nobody understood my practices and what I was saying. My practices were going inside myself. They were brahmacharya. This is a big one that nobody understands.
That is so
Especially
fascinating.
a tantric.
That is so fascinating. So Vancouver, the city I'm in, most people are Yanni. Tantra are very few. It's almost like a forbidden art to
Yeah.
go into Tantra because it's a left-hand practice. And for some reason, Vancouverites don't really like that, or the teachers in Vancouver don't really teach that. They don't go into the tantric practice, but more of the Yanni practice, and which is what I oriented to as well, because I'm exposed to both at the beginning, and then I just pick Yana, and immediately I didn't actually think about tantra, but then it has been showing up in my vision, not vision, by my surroundings more and more. Yeah, so I have a lot of homework. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, just most physical people, most earth life people are going to use the physical environment to grow. They're not going to use themselves and going inwardly into the self. That's not an earth life way of being. An earth life way of being is to engage with other physical objects. So you could just say in general, our reality system itself is a tantric system, or principally, in its peoples.
Yes.
Mostly.
I agree. I have to run. I'm so sorry. And thank you for being so patient with me. I have so many questions and talk too much. And hopefully one day I can contribute from my practice, about my practice too. Thank you so much.
Definitely. 1, you're welcome. 2, you're not talking too much. 3, the more you come into these Zooms, the more the group conversations get easier, and so definitely come in more, acclimate to them more, use your voice more, because your energy is going to neutralize more as you do that, and that's definitely going to help your channeling.
Okay.
3, if you're interested in the experiment that I'm proposing with the Monroe explorations, definitely leave a comment in that thread on the talk board so I can begin compiling an idea for participants, and we can begin sort of working out how we're going to devise it, how it might work. 4, let me know when you're ready for the talk, and maybe we could do a group one where everyone was just using who they wanted to for the talk. Okay, a very fun idea.
Yeah, I would love that. I am gonna try with the moon gazing until the next full moon. So I'm gonna do a full phase from new moon to the full moon, and then we'll see where we are. I will see where I am after that about Traktat, and there's so much to play with now. I really like the moving with the particle physically. I really love that idea because I see them, I feel them. I just never occurred to me I can do that. Oh, I should do that. So I will do that. Thank you. I have to run. I really do. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Antoine, Casey, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming today, Andy. Anton.
Hello. Good having someone new. I'd like to actually have some people who are less experienced as well, and just to broaden the audience, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have someone who's got different experiences and different ways of looking at things.
Yes, and is able to verbalize them very well. That's always fun, especially for these videos. So what's going on with you? What do you want to talk about today?
Oh, nothing much new. I've been having my usual struggles with recall. This morning, I sat there for about 5 minutes because I was just on such the edge of recalling. I could recall like one symbol from the dream, and it didn't make any sense at all. And it was kind of like what he was talking about, this black mass, and
yeah, that was fun.
Well, that's kind of what I visualized at the end of this dream when I was trying to recall this dream. And I kind of halfway back into it, and I saw this black mass with this thing sticking out of it. And I don't know, just made me recall that. I was curious about some of his experiences with audio, audible. And I guess he said he wasn't clairaudient, because I thought earlier he said he was.
Yeah,
But
with as clairaudient, he's not hearing what we would call an out loud voice. He's hearing telepathically within himself.
well, that's what I wanted to get to, is the fine edge of that, because I know when I'm hearing out of my ears versus hearing something from the inner channel. And usually stuff in the inner channel is not really vocal, it's an impression.
Depends on how fully you've moved into the state. For instance, when shifting into an out-of-body state, when you're in an additional field, often the field starts coming into your awareness from the void as, the voices of people talking, even before the visual field has been arrived at. I'll hear these conversations happening. And so it depends on where you are sort of in the experience and the depth of the experience.
Well, so what I did experience a few times, not so much lately, it happened mostly when I was working a few years ago, or even not, but just doing my roundabout, normally work, running around doing stuff. I would hear my name. I'd hear someone say my name. And I would always freeze right then and try to open a channel and try to focus on it, but it never came through any more than that.
Mm.
But I would hear my name, and it wasn't outside vocal, but it was almost verbal. I mean, I could hear the quality of the sound, it wasn't just an impression from the inner. It was like I actually heard it. Oh, I still knew it wasn't coming through my ear.
Yeah.
It was welling up from the inside somehow. But, I've got a name that's funny to pronounce. Most people, my parents always insisted I pronounce it Antone. And everybody wants to pronounce it Anton or Antone. So I hear this name, I hear someone say my name, and it's not said like Antone, it's said like one of the variants, Anton or something like that, like different. And I try to think of different friends who'd call me, different ways, stuff like that. But I've never really connected it to an individual or anything but I don't know. It's strange because it comes and it goes, and I can't connect to it. I try to be quiet. I try to be silent, and try to see if there's any more.
You have me fascinated though here. Your parents' pronunciation of your name is Anton?
Yes. The German, Slavic.
On plays a very large role in my life experience, and on tone. It's almost like they wanted you to know who you were.
I was trying to explain to people, all you have to say is on and tone, but it's like most people, Anton or Antone or.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for letting me know that. I've been calling you incorrectly all these years.
Everybody does, so it's like totally natural for me, but it's like when I hear the voice, it's not like Anton like it would be from a parent, or a deceased relative or something,
Yeah.
It's just kind of strange.
Anton is the correct pronunciation of your name.
For a Germanic type, first name like that.
Anton.
On a good classical station, you'll hear them say Anton Bruckner. They won't say Anton Bruckner. They'll say Anton Bruckner. But there's not many who will do it that way. It's kind of an odd thing.
I'm doing it from here on, Anton.
And Anton is proper if it's a last name, because it's a Greek last name spelled the same way, Anton. As a Greek last name is, properly said Anton. So it's all, I just like, don't call me late for dinner type, attitude,
Anton.
But it's kind of strange, the different levels of, what I really wanted to get at was the different levels of hearing, there's like this message you get from the inner, it's not really so verbal as an impression. And there's stuff you hear from the outer ears, obviously verbal. But then this one word, Anton, almost verbal, almost through my ears, but it's definitely not.
One, this happens with me. It used to happen with me a lot, so I know exactly what you mean. What might that mean, or how is that impacting your awareness? What does that mean to you? That it's almost verbal. Almost as though it's coming from the outside environment.
I wonder if it isn't one of my friends. Some of my best friends have died already. So I kind of wonder if it's one of them, you know. But then I wasn't able to connect any further, even though
Well,
it did.
would it mean, for instance, that you are in an out-of-body state?
Well, in a dual conscious state, it's supposed to, you know, because you know I'm working or something. It's normally happening when I'm doing something.
An
Like
out-of-body
half
state
off
is
somewhere else, you know, half off somewhere else.
an out-of-body state is a dual consciousness state. Most people do not seem to take the time to cognize the fact that they are aware of themselves in two or more fields and multiple fields when they're in an out-of-body experience. But the reason you know you're in an out-of-body experience when you're in one, especially at first, is you know you're not in your bed sleeping. So therefore, you must be aware that you are or do have a body and a bed sleeping and are in this new field. And so, yeah, when you're hearing the untone as though it were almost coming from the physical environment, you know, it's that, yeah, could it mean that you are in an out-of-body state of consciousness?
Yeah, I really wonder if someone's trying to contact me, but I've never been able to even silence myself and try to be open to it. You know, it just doesn't, I don't get anything else. It's just nothing else.
So have you ever, when you call someone's name and they don't respond, what happens? So my question is do you respond to the voice?
Well, I'm not sure who it is, so I don't say a name back. I guess I could
Well,
try.
you could say something. So you hear your
Sometimes I
name,
do. I say hello or something like that. So I do
you say yes. When
something like
somebody
that.
calls my name, I'll say yes. Who's calling, please? You know? Yeah, so that would be the best way to get more from them potentially. And it might not happen immediately. We may have too many blocks and boundaries up for more to come through, but you can feel that maybe something's trying to, you know, because the energy dynamic of that experience you may notice is still lingering, still being a little more ongoing than the calling of the name itself. Engage it.
So it's kind of what I'm throwing around in my brain right now is these inner experiences and how they translate. And like you and him, Andy, we're talking about what you see when you look at different people in terms of energy. And I found that really fascinating because, like I was explaining before, I tend to see these orbs above people's heads more often than not, you know, or sometimes a point of light in the body, but just a little tiny point. But you guys are like describing totally different things. So it's kind of neat that we all visualize things a little differently.
Fun, right?
Maybe we're turning into different aspects of the whole, you know, but
We're just giving our attention, you know, we're patterning the attention to be more aware of some things, slightly less of other things. And yeah, that gives a certain picture. And you're patterning your awareness to be more aware of certain things and less aware of others. And that makes a certain picture. Yes, and sharing what these pictures are with each other is very fun. And it helps us see that there are a variety of ways in which we can pattern the awareness in order to have a particular experience. None is any better than any other. It's like opening a Crayola box and, you know, picking a certain color, the one that you're most guided to in any moment. You know, there was no right or wrong answer in picking that color. It was just the color that was most matching your mood at the moment, you know, and you could just as very easily next time go for a different color, you know, and yeah, so it's like that. There are possibilities. We have to really get into the knowing that the universe itself is an infinite and the or as a particular experience we could have, sure. But that we don't have to anymore, and especially right now if we don't want. We can go into something larger. We can stop fighting with each other and just enjoy what other people are choosing, as well as enjoying what we ourselves are choosing. And that becomes really fun when somebody's choosing something that you hadn't thought of yet, but that, wow, is looking really interesting to you. You know, I wonder what that would be like. So cool.
Another thought I had, if it didn't escape me already, it's just cool. It's just cool hearing from different people. I wish more people would join in. I've put a small ad on my YouTube channel, you know, for the sessions.
More people will. Give it time to get going. Keep showing up yourself, because you're that extra person that will be here when the other person gets here, and it will begin to grow. I sort of hope it doesn't grow beyond a certain point, because then not enough people who come to need to say something have the platform to do that. But
I think 4 or 5 people will be.
Definitely 4 or 5, and maybe even 6 or 7 would be super fun. And we will get there, because we're putting out that energy. We're putting out that idea. We're drawing it to ourselves even now. So the more of these videos we put out there, the more people see that, you know, there's something that they could participate in by coming. Yeah. And I think moving back to the boards is going to help big too. It's going to get the more seriously focused people back in on everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have conversations there than on Facebook, that's for sure.
Me too. I feel such a degradation there. I really do. A serious lack of connection.
I guess you use Facebook as an induction tool, and not, you know, and then take things deeper on your board.
Yeah.
Now you have the Tap Talk board, right? You also have another board on WordPress, or the same thing?
WordPress is the website. So there's the website, there's the Patreon page, there's the talk board, the forum message board, there is the YouTube channel, and it seems to me there's one other place we have too. Oh, the Facebook group. So there's the 5 locations, yes, and they're all linked into being the Galactic Travel Channel now. So they should be easy to find.
Yeah, I couldn't find the link for this meeting easily on your Tap Talk board.
Om Talk, Tapa Talk. Okay, yeah, that's who's administrating the boards now. But our board is the Galactic Travel Channel. We could just call it the Forum Message Board.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I can find the connection. I can always find it easily on Facebook, but I think we got to make it easy to find on the other boards too. And
we do, and I'm doing that today. I just made the decision, as you know, yesterday. I put out the notice I'm definitely coming off Facebook and back onto the boards. And so I spent all day yesterday, and I mean all day yesterday, reconstructing some things there. And I will put the links to these Zoom rooms there now too. There's a reason that I didn't do it previously, but that reason is no longer in existence now that I'm back there using that as the springboard and not Facebook. So yes, that will happen today.
And so we've got the Tap Talk, so I guess I'm not finding the WordPress board.
The forum message board, let's just call it that, because it's not a Tapa Talk board. They have their own. They're just the administrators of the,
right.
They're the organization that owns, you know, those for everybody who's forum.
I'm just going by what I see on the top line, because I'm on your Galactic Travel channel, but the HTTPS or whatever it is, it shows Tap Talk as the first thing. Doesn't show WordPress.
It's still under Om Talks, because Om Talks was the name of the board. I was Om Talks before I was the Galactic Travel Channel. And when Tapa Talk bought out Yuku, it was a Yuku board before. I mean, the boards get bought out every few years by a new organization. And so, yeah, they could not change. I have no idea why they couldn't change the URL to be the name of the current board, but they, for some reason, can't do it. So the URL will still say, you know, https:// Om Talks.
No, mine says https:// www Tapa Talk. facebook.com/groups/onbox/the conscious OBE Wednesdays, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because that's where I got your thing.
Right. Right. So it'll always say who owns the board and then / and whatever the name of the board is. But they couldn't change the URL when I changed the name of the board from Om Talks to the Galactic Travel Channel. So they've been there for some time now. And I vacated those boards when they took over because they wouldn't let me get rid of the ads. And I'm like, well, that's it. That's the end of my forum message board. And I am absolutely, as you know, against all advertisements. And so, but after about 3 or so years, they got things worked out. I guess enough people left that they decided to, make some changes, and they made it possible for me to pay to have the ads removed from the board, which is how it always was before. You just had to pay a monthly amount and the ads wouldn't show up. Yeah. So we've got the boards back, and that's why I changed it to the Galactic Travel Channel and to match the new situation. And Om Talks was from the yoga years, and the Galactic Travel Channel is from the consciousness exploration out of body experience years. So now we're all matching. All the sites are now the Galactic Travel Channel. That's who we are. We are the Galactic Travel Channel.
I should have remembered it's 11 on my time. I was probably.
Yeah, and that room I just closed down yesterday. Nobody's coming to it. And so I made it a unscheduled meeting. You'll see that on the message board. It'll say on universal discussion, no longer scheduled, request only. So if somebody,
I hope that board would go because, be successful and people would join it, because that's a board where anybody
can just talk about anything. Yeah, I thought that one would probably be the most popular.
Yeah, me too. I was kind of hoping, a little down to basics types talk on that channel, but never really went.
It's interesting. I'm very happy with how things are going. We did open more rooms than was really very easy for me to manage, because it takes a long time to process these videos, process them, download them onto my computer, and upload them to YouTube. It takes about 8 hours. That's for every single video. Yeah, and so because they're long, so especially these 2-hour long ones can take 8 hours. The ones that are an hour long, maybe 5 hours to do all the work. And that's in addition to having the talk itself. And so, yeah, it's very time consuming. So I'm very pleased with what everybody has decided on. They have decided on the OBE call, the ET contact call, and the meditations. And that's awesome. So we will get that going, and a few of us have sort of gotten together with some ideas on new rooms to potentially open. But right now, because September is such a busy month for me with my day job, working a lot of extra hours because I have taxes coming up that I needed some fun tickets for. But after, by the end of September, everything should be back to normal there. And yeah, we'll look for another room to open. Or again, yesterday I had that brilliant idea of continuing on the Monroe explorations. And if we could get together on, some people who would like to engage in that project, I'm going to do that instead. And we'll just keep the current rooms that are open, because that'll be as much as I can handle. That will be a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
A rough outline on that, on the Monroe?
Yeah, okay, so the Robert Monroe is the man who coined the phrase out-of-body experience, and just a brilliant, real natural OBEer, and wrote many books, opened and founded the Monroe Institute, which is still open today, many years after his passing. And so the Monroe Institute was all about the out-of-body experience and assisting people in having an out-of-body experience. And so you would, pay a nominal amount to go there and practice in what he calls check units. He created these little bed like stalls that are closed in, so that you have no outside environment noise or things to disturb you. And there was a system put in where you would put on headphones. And of course, he was all about the binaurals, right? And hemisync. And so they would use those in these check units in order to induce out of body experiences. And with the Monroe Explorers and the Monroe Explorer tapes, he would take explorers into these check units, and he would not use the binaurals. He would speak to them from his headset and, guide them, take them into the out of body state and to his focus levels. He'd say, okay, go on out to focus 18. And, they knew what that was. And they would, as they were entering the out of body state, be able to speak through to their physical body to report what it was they were experiencing. This is the channeling state. This is them going into the channeling state. Many of them were able to reach the channeling state and reached entities within themselves, within their templates that began speaking through them. One of the most well-known ones, Miranon. Yeah, I love the Miranon tapes. That was really good. Some of the explorers were just extraordinary also, like ROMC. He always used monikers. He never used their names, And so ROMC was a woman by the name of Rosie. She came out herself with her own information too. She was an amazing explorer and could be in an out-of-body state field, a full 3D surround sound environment, and speak through to her physical body, explaining what was happening in the field. And this is something I'm able to do. Also, I'm discovering as Ra and I are doing these channeling practice sessions. I've already entered some fields and was able to speak through to my physical body, to report what was happening in the experiences. It's really fun. And so anyway, I am having the idea to do this as a group and to continue on Monroe's work with this here now so that it doesn't just die. So there wasn't many. He didn't have many explorers that were able to get into the out-of-body state and report what was happening. There were only about 5 or 6 or 7, I think, on the tapes that are made public anyway. And yeah, so even if we just have a small group, I'm not sure exactly how we'll do it yet. If I will go, onto the table and report, or if I will be Monroe, guiding others, in and asking them to report what's happening. We'll have to.
I think you'll have to do the former. You be the guide and then everybody else, because otherwise, just of practicality,
The latter, yeah, there needs to be somebody who asks the questions, yes. And it's not an easy thing to do. Ra and I are discovering this again through our channeling practice sessions. Knowing what to ask is almost as hard as coming up with the answers, as hard, I would say, because especially when you're new and just beginning, you're not in a deep enough state in which the entity is necessarily there and you're out of the equation, so I'm still very much there and present, in the experiences I'm having. And if the question's not correct, there's just nothing that comes. Or if the question's not specific enough, there's so much that's coming through that nothing comes. It's like getting an encyclopedia all at once, and you're not going to start dismantling it and saying what's there. It would take years, you know what I mean? And so just nothing gets said. And yeah, it's a fascinating process. I definitely want to practice it more. I want to practice it with others of us so that we as a group can all sort of develop this skill, this ability, and begin then each of us coming apart again and coming together with other groups to teach and get this on with even more. Just a way of expanding it out.
I guess the other latest thought I had was about, he was talking about dying, you know, and he thought he knew he was going to die, or you thought you knew you were going to die and all that. I heard someone talk about exit points before.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't necessarily have one exit point, you have maybe several exit points. And whether you go or not at that time, it's kind of up, that's kind of up in the air. I mean, it's, or up to you.
There'll be a parameter, like when I get the possibilities and probabilities, it's a singularity, and it takes place within a certain, what we could call, time frame area. And so, yes, the one that is resting very strongly with me, and the highest probability, is in my 63rd year, which is not too far from where I sit currently. Yeah.
Because I almost died, you know, when I was 28 or 29, somewhere in there. And, you know, when I was coming to and all that, I was kind of thinking, well, do I really need to come back? Do I really need, is there really anything else left to do with this life? You know, I'm not going to have a mate, you know, I'm not going to, I mean, what's the point? I'm too old to start, you know, a family or any of that stuff. You know, what's my purpose? You know, it's like, yeah, I don't really have a purpose anymore. What's the point, you know?
Yeah, well,
I guess, you know, at the
listen for what the answer is. Listen for what the answer is. A lot of us aren't here for the steady, regular list of things that most are here for. As you know.
Yeah.
As you know, we're here to hold a certain space and a certain energy dynamic, a certain level of awareness that the planet needs. Without it, there is no possibility of graduation for a great many souls. And so, you know, it's really important. Going back just very briefly to the Monroe explorations and continuing on that, you'd be ideal. You go so easily into what you call the daydream state, which is the channeling state, which is the out-of-body state. Yeah, and you are very easily probably able to report from that, to speak through your physical body what's happening as you're, you know, in that state. That would be interesting for you to grow that experience, to grow that experience for yourself and for others. Yeah, and because you're willing and volunteering to do this, you know, on camera and share it with other people, even more so. See, not many people are. They're camera shy. They're not ready to come out front yet. And so, even if a group of us just begin and get this going, it will be able to, you know, in the long run, draw more people in. And we may have to do the sessions one-on-one. I don't know that this is something that we can do in a group. We could probably, I was thinking about this morning, we could probably do it in a group, but be focusing on the one. Everybody else mute the microphones, and they can be there sort of going into the state, but not being there to report. I mean, working on a specific explored to do the reporting of what that one is experiencing. But the others could be there just sort of, you know, going into the state, you know, so that they could, you know, practice that.
Maybe even do turns, you know, depending on how many people are there, I guess.
Probably not turns, no, because it's a very long process. And people have to have the time to go through the process of preparing for the time that we're going to meet in Zoom. So before that, you know, doing your meditations, doing your yoga nidra, doing some breathing practices, opening the body, getting the body comfortable so that your body is not uncomfortable, and a lot of time wasted when we get onto the camera, getting you into the state of relaxation. So that needs to happen before the time that we're going to meet here live. And then by the time we're here meeting live, you know, you're already pretty much into that state, and we're just going to very quickly redirect you in, you know, maybe take 10, 12 minutes or so, and then begin the reporting of what's happening. And then, you know, getting those who aren't going to feel uncomfortable when there's not much happening. You know, you have to not be easily frustrated, you know, or thinking that more has to happen because you're on the spot because the camera's rolling, you know, and things like that. No. Just everything will happen, you know, in its own time, and you report simply what is happening. And the more we do this, again, the better I will get at guiding in, the better I will get at asking the right questions so that information does come, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it will be a process of learning together as we go, as we grow.
Maybe do the whole group in a mass the first time, because you're going to have some people who are going to be natural at it, and some people are going to not get anything. I don't know. You'll have to figure out the logistics.
There'll be nobody who doesn't get anything.
Okay.
There is something always happening. It will be the reporters getting good at observing and being able to report what that is. Yeah, and Ra and I had this talk the last time we met too. We have to be able to connect. You cannot be afraid of me, and you can't put me on a pedestal. We're equivalents. We're all explorers, and we're going to do this exploration. So we all need to be on this level playing field. Yeah. And if there's a part of my energy, and just the personality and the way that I am that seems to be getting in the way, you have to, again, like me enough to be able to be honest with me and tell me what that is. I don't take anything personally, and I need the feedback. I need to hear, because if it's something I'm doing that's getting in the way, then I can address this. We can get it out of the way very, very rapidly so that we can get the information. The information is the important part. Bringing back the new ideas, going out and bringing back the new ideas. Nothing else is important. I'm not important. You're not important.
It would really be great to have some people with a totally different modus operandi, people who look at it totally differently, and, just get a whole new perspective from different people.
Exactly. You will pattern your awareness in a particular way and bring back a particular pattern of ideas and experience. And so will everyone else. And if you listen to those Monroe Explorer tapes, you will see that they all did also. It's not about everybody bringing back the same thing. If it were, I would only have to work with one person. No, it's about bringing back the collage. Yeah.
Really?
The whole flower, not just a petal.
It seems like the inner structure is a big blank pad where you got to build your own little structure of understanding. Everybody builds it a little differently.
Yeah,
a little different framework for everybody, a little different perspective.
And it's fascinating. Yeah, the main thing is that's fascinating.
And that's why I like to hear different perspectives. I like to put myself in their shoes. And you were kind of asking us earlier, how you deal with new ideas. And I was kind of looking at it lower than you were looking at it. What I do when I hear a new religion or path or practice or framework is I try to, as much as I can, suspend my skepticism and my preconditioned thoughts about it. Try to just be like a kid hearing it from the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Take it all in, then at some point, does it all sit well, does it integrate or does it not integrate, that's the decision point later. I try to open up for the initial and see what they're talking about before I make a judgment of it, basically.
Not everybody's life purpose is the same. And so it's not about whether or not that pattern integrated well in the sense that it's right or wrong, but in the sense that it either matches or doesn't match your life purpose and reason for being here and what you're here to do. And that's going to be different for everybody. And will we be able to see, all of the frameworks in that light, then we can begin to stop positioning them against one another, so that we can receive them in the full joy of what they are, and just simply say, when you come here, you're not going to marry everyone who's here. But there may be one or two or three or four or five that that you are, and the others that didn't get chosen because they were wrong. They didn't get chosen because they weren't a match to who you are and what you were here to do. They're perfectly fine women. Nothing wrong with them whatsoever. Beautiful in every single way. Just not the match for who you are at times in your life and what you were here to do, period. Yeah. And now there's no fight. There's no judgment. There's no putting down and up. You know, there's no hierarchy. All of that is completely dismantled. The whole thing is beautiful. There's no argument or fight in any of it. What a wonderful way to live life. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And it's not Pollyanna. It's not airy-fairy. It's the way things are when we're not interfering with the way things are.